I just want to draw people's attention. Emma, you've spoken at least to one person who's a signer of this letter.
Nell Sheline, who we'd had on the show before she joined the administration in a fellowship to talk about her work on Yemen, and she's been one of the more vocal members of the Biden administration. She worked in the State Department, who resigned over the genocide in Gaza. There is another Biden administration appointee that quit. Do we have the letter? Can we put the letter up?
Yeah.
Here it is. Yeah. I can read this, Sam.
I can too. We're former U.S. government officials who resigned from our respective positions over the last 9 months due to our grave concerns with current U.S. policy toward the crisis in Gaza and U.S. policies and practices towards Palestine and Israel more broadly. We are subject matter experts representing the interagency. We are a multi-faith, multi-ethnic community of professionals and patriots dedicated to the service of the United States of America, its people, and its values. Whether in civil service, foreign service, armed service, or political appointees, each of us has sworn an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. Alone, we each made the somber and difficult decision to resign based on the individual circumstances we encountered at different times during these past 9 months as we performed our specific jobs. But today we stand united. The administration's policy in Gaza is a failure and a threat to U.S. national security. America's diplomatic cover for and continuous flow of arms to Israel has ensured our undeniable complicity in the killings and forced starvation of a besieged Palestinian population in Gaza. That it's not only morally reprehensible and in clear violation of international humanitarian law and U.S. laws, but it has also put a target on America's back. Pretty powerful stuff. I don't remember 12 people resigning, frankly, during the Iraq War.
Right.
We just didn't see it in the same way, which is sort of shocking. We should have. But I think, again, this is a function. I think a lot of those people are younger. Not all of them.
Right.
But a lot of them are younger people. And I just think we're in just a different era where.
And I mean, I wonder how the calculus changes if Biden looks like he's just like a loser. If, for instance, he stays on, I mean, even the careerists are going to be like, should I take a chance to get off of this ship now and save some kind of face rather than going down with it and never having resigned from administration doing this?
Right.
It's possible.
And I think the later in the letter, they basically demand that the official policy of the United States would support Palestinian self-determination in some way. I'm if I'm not mistaken, they do mention genocide as well in this letter, but maybe I'm wrong. And so don't take my word on that. But I saw one of the signatories was basically saying that there's a possibility, if there's unconditional support for Netanyahu, that an expansion of a war into Lebanon could endanger American soldiers, say, if Donald Trump gets reelected. And I don't know, the Israeli government wants to pull the United States into a broader regional war there. If it's our ally in the Middle East and we're supplying these weapons, that very much could tumble us into an immensely deadly quagmire, let alone like what this does to the people of Lebanon. It seems like an afterthought, but it shouldn't be, because Netanyahu wants to stay in power. And again, like as we begin to unroll the failures of Biden and his team to adequately deal with his seemingly kind of more rapid decline in the past 6 months, you have to wonder how much Biden's weakness or inability to kind of see the moment clearly allows him to say, you know, like, hey, Rafah's our red line. And then they cross it and that's not really our red line. The inconsistencies could make sense if there's a leadership vacuum at the very top with Biden as well. Just a theory.
It's possible. I mean, the best that I think we can hope for is that in the event we do get another candidate, Harris is as likely, it seems to me, as any of them to at least apply some pressure on the brakes. And certainly if, I mean, I got to imagine Bibi Netanyahu also a little nervous right now, because I think there was definitely confidence that they probably had in terms of Biden's weakness. And certainly Netanyahu thought like, well, I'm either going to get Biden, who seems to be doing whatever I ask and is willing to take whatever we do in terms of not listening to Biden, to the extent any of that was sincere, or he gets Trump, who he knows is basically going to do what Miriam Adelson wants him to do and allow for annexation of the West Bank. Incidentally, I mentioned this as a headline. I cannot find the piece in front of me for whatever reason now. But Israel is planning to essentially steal the largest amount of land. They call it appropriate. The largest amount of land that they have since the Oslo Accords in the West Bank. You know, many times we've been told that Smotrich, the finance minister, is just, you know, he's just one politician in Israel. As an excuse for his full-on fascist quotes and sayings. I mean, recently he was like, I don't care about the treatment of Palestinians. We should just kill them all, essentially. He is not only a settler himself, he is also the finance minister and is basically the prefect for the West Bank.
Yeah.
He has been hobbling the Palestinian Authority's ability to get any financing. I think he just relinquished it, but I think part of the deal was we get more, we steal more land from Palestinians. I mean, there's no other way to characterize it. You can say appropriate, but that's not, when you appropriate other people's land and have no legal authority to do so, all of those settlements are illegal under any semblance of law.
And it's been this way since 1967, by the way. I just want to say, like, these settlements have been a way systematically to ensure that there is no two-state solution, which, again, is a liberal mythology in that way, because the process of settling into the Palestinian land as designated by international law means Israel's just expanding slowly, and then they're ramping it up now in this time of, like, fascist death spiral. And we covered this 2 weeks ago, that quietly the IDF had transferred power in the occupied West Bank to settlers, basically roving gangs with guns, who were working under Smotrich. So it's the IDF essentially giving carte blanche to far-right terrorists and extremists who are led by Smotrich to oversee the expansion of these settlements at a rapid pace.
And I mean, this is that sort of two-step between, is this going to be administered by, say, the IDF military forces or, say, fascist civic leaders? That's the apartheid thing, right? Like, if the West Bank is not controlled by the IDF, if it's controlled by Israeli politicians, then that means that the people that are controlled in that should be counted towards the demographic that should be given, say, voting rights, for instance. But of course, they're not going to be. So that's why a lot of these groups have been saying, we're going to count those as part of Israel, just like you all do, and call this apartheid.
Well, you just call it Greater Israel. And I think that's just more accurate, because Israel controls the West Bank, or as you said, has a prefect over it. It's an occupation in the West Bank. And then in Gaza, yeah, they pulled out the settlers early in the 2000s, but they still imposed a blockade. They still control every movement. They control their water, their electricity. In no other scenario that wasn't heavily propagandized, we would understand that this is a part of the controlled territory of that country, that this is all Greater Israel. You can include, East Jerusalem as well. But that's not how it's spoken about. We're talking about how Hamas is some sovereign entity or something like that. No, No, that's the reality. And that's why we talk about like a one-state democratic solution being the most equitable and the most realistic.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.